What's up, everybody? Jim and Eric here to talk about the success of Deadpool and what it means for other comic book movies. Eric Goldman, let's start. What does this mean, first of all, for Fox and the XMen movie universe?
I mean, I think they were already leaning towards hey, let's actually use characters besides Wolverine.
Yeah.
But this will completely light a fire under that as far as, I mean, they're just going into production, I think, on Gambit.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Gambit maybe gets a little more money now.
Yeah.
And certainly gets more TLC, you know?
Yeah.
It just, because they were so connected to Wolverine, and then the X movies were very Professor X Magneto with some Mystique. I think it really shows them, because we've been saying this for years, you guys are sitting on all these characters with all this possibility. And so now I think they're going to really look at that and all the potential they have here to expand the X-Men universe, which is a really large one, into really big ways.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has already been made about the fact that Deadpool, it made roughly $135 million domestically. I think it was like $260 million worldwide.
Yeah.
Movie cost about $50 million just to produce. A lot more in the marketing, I'm sure, but they made their money back already.
Yeah.
And it's R-rated, so the sort of lessons that Hollywood will take from this. How do you think the effect of Deadpool being R-rated, being more comedic, how do you think that's going to ripple out into the wider kind of comic book movieverse? I mean, we already know with the X-Men, we're going to see another Deadpool movie.
Yeah,
you know,
of
it's going to
course.
affect Gambit. But how does it affect the broader scope of superhero movies?
My fear is let's just exactly copy exactly what they did. James Gunn actually wrote a great little thing on Facebook about that while praising Deadpool, saying, you know, hopefully Hollywood doesn't say, let's make everything exactly like Deadpool, because every comic book movie shouldn't be like this, you know? But it does show you that you can definitely expand beyond sort of the template and go into different arenas, and people are there for it. I mean, Deadpool's success is actually kind of astounding. The fact that it opened bigger than, you know, almost all the SpiderMan movies except one of them, that it opened bigger than Man of Steel. It made more money in its single weekend than the Wolverine made in its entire run. So it really goes to show you that you can, I think outside the box. This was a small-scale movie because it had to be, but that also proves that you don't have to do the universe-bending finale.
Exactly.
And then rated R, you know?
Rated R, and it was made essentially by fans for fans. You know, it wasn't made with a broad audience in mind, and yet it found it. It found it in spades. It was amazing that the movie it really is a game changer in a lot of ways. I think if I'm Warner Brothers DC today, and boy, would we love to be a fly on the wall at Warner Brothers, Fox, Marvel, Sony, everything. I'm thinking, okay, there's you know, it's kind of a lukewarm buzz right now on BVS, on Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. You know, and it's a very grim movie, very heavy. You know, I'm still looking forward to it, but you know, I'm wondering if I'm DC Warners today, am I suddenly going back and thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe we should get that Lobo movie going. Maybe we should go ahead and fast track that Blue Beetle Booster Gold team up movie. Maybe even Shazam. All things that have kind of a lighter tone, more fun, more playful. Definitely like something like Lobo. You could totally see it being their answer to Deadpool. Maybe this is kind of the end of the po-faced kind of superhero movie.
Yeah, and I was already excited for Suicide Squad, which is a completed movie. I mean, I guess they could do a little bit of reshoots, but that movie's done basically. But I do think the ad campaign for Suicide Squad, which was already, you know, the last trailer, like playing the Queen song and whatnot, there was a fun tone to it, but I think that they might lean into that even more now. Because it's like, okay, seems to be something, and Marvel already knew, you know, you look at the success of Guardians of the Galaxy and other Marvel films, Ant-Man showed quirky, funny, that there was definitely an audience there for that.
Yeah, they want something offbeat. How do you think this is going to affect then something like SpiderMan, now that Marvel has it back? You know, even the fact that, you know, they animate his mask a little bit. And, you know, do we think the new Spider-Man will be impacted in any way by Deadpool?
I think, you know, it could only maybe lean, maybe a bit. I mean, again, that movie's, you know, in the pipeline, but yeah, maybe you look at the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, and there was still this sort of, especially with the first one, this sort of dark tone and kind of the moodiness and the edginess. And, you know, maybe you don't have to do that. And again, my fear is that they, again, try to just copy Deadpool, which they shouldn't do, but that it does just show you that there is room for more. I mean, Fantastic Four, a great example within Fox of a movie where it just seemed tonally that their approach was all wrong. That should not have been the grim, gritty
it
movie.
should have been fun.
Should have been fun.
But yet, the balance you have to strike is the previous two Fantastic Four movies were fun. They were light.
Right.
But, you can't be tone deaf to story. Ultimately, Deadpool was made by fans.
Yeah.
They understood that character. And I think that's the most important lesson is if you're going to do these comic book movies, you have to have fans, filmmakers who are fans of the material, who understand what fans want but can still deliver a film that speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think you have that with Kevin Feige. He's a fan first and an executive producer second. An executive and producer second. DC, that's what they're struggling with. Everything they're constantly answering to whatever the marketplace is dictating or playing catch up on something. Do you think, it all depends too on how Batman v Superman does, but if that movie only makes, say, 25 million more than what Deadpool made its opening weekend, let's say it opens to 160, that's actually a disaster for that movie.
It's certainly they're gonna have to work really hard to save face, and again, we don't know. I mean, that movie it's gonna open huge no matter what, huge in the relative sense. But yeah, it does.
It's hugely expensive too.
It does raise the stakes because Deadpool was so well marketed, and I had actually before it even opened, I go, wow, I feel like the excitement around Deadpool is so much higher than Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And so now it does kind of, with that movie opening just a month away, you have to prove that we've turned this into a true event.
Yeah.
Not a movie people feel like they're gonna see because they're gonna see it, but they're excited because Deadpool. People were excited to see Deadpool.
Yeah. You made a good comparison earlier. You said it kind of feels like the BVS kind of feels like the Hobbit movies. Like, yeah, this is coming. Yeah,
I'll see it.
Yeah, we'll see it.
Yeah.
And there's no real anticipation or champion at the bit.
I do want to throw in before we wrap, though, that costume-wise, I do hope an influence this has on Fox X-Men movies is how it was right out of the comics. Everyone was so happy. Like, I actually like the Singer X-Men movies quite a bit, but the fact that we're 16 years in and they're still wearing all black costumes, and like Wolverine has never worn anything like his comic book costume with the mask. You see what Deadpool did, and it was, like you said, it was giving the fans what they wanted.
Right.
And there is something to be said for that. I'm not one of those people saying you have to adapt the comics exactly, and I think that's impossible. But something at this point that is so proven with Marvel and now with Deadpool of just putting him in the right costumes. I think it's time to get some X-Men. She looked, Negasonic looked great in that Team Youth costume.
Yeah,
it's time to get Scott and Jean in some blue and green.
Well, one thing's for certain, we're definitely getting Deadpool 2 very soon, and I'm sure it's going to have cable. So we want to know what you think. How do you think Deadpool is going to affect upcoming comic book movies? Let us know in the comments. And for all things movies, comics, everything, keep it here on IGN.